Hey, it's Stacey Heine, your holistic nutritionist and plant-based coach. I'm so excited to have you here. It's another episode of the Urban Pharmacy podcast, and I'm thrilled to tell you about today's guest. It is Ocean Robbins. Now, before I get into his bio, I want to remind you that the doors are open for Holistic Wellness Society, my membership community that is going to help you thrive and reduce the overwhelm of holistic and plant-based living. I provide resources, weekly live trainings, and mentorship and support for you to be able to not just survive, but to thrive and feel well in your body again, to take back your health and to really become that woman that you want to be. Now, let's get into today's guest, Ocean Robbins. Ocean is somebody who I've known about for years and years. One of my good friends handed me his father's book over a decade ago called Diet for a New America. And from that point on, my perspective was changed. Ocean Robbins is the CEO and co-founder of the 500,000 plus member Food Revolution Network. It's one of the largest communities of healthy eating advocates on the planet. He has held hundreds of live seminars and events that have touched millions of lives from 190 nations. Ocean is founder and was director of the nonprofit Yes, which has led transformational events for 650,000 leaders in 65 nations. He's a recipient of the National Jefferson Award of Outstanding Public Service, the Freedom's Flame Award, the Harmon Wilkinson Award, and numerous other honors. Ocean has served as adjunct professor for Chapman University and on the boards of Friends of the Earth, Creating Our Future, Tipping Point Network, Turning Tide Coalition, and many other organizations. Ocean's grandfather founded Baskin-Robbins, and his father, John Robbins, walked away from the family company and ice cream fortune to write bestsellers, including Diet for a New America, and to become a renowned health advocate. And now Ocean is on a mission to transform the industrialized food culture into one that celebrates and supports healthy people and a healthy planet. And he's inviting you to join the food revolution too. You can get all of the links down in the show notes to join the Food Revolution Network member program. And you can learn more about the books and stuff that we're talking about. You're also going to get the chance to learn about the certification program that I just completed called the Plant-Based Coaching Certification from the Food Revolution Network, which I was thrilled to go through, and you'll hear more details about that. Hopefully, you'll consider getting certified yourself someday. All right, without further ado, here's Ocean. Okay. Ocean Robbins, welcome to the Urban Pharmacy podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you here.
And I'm thrilled to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity, Stacey.
We were just chatting momentarily before this conversation, and I honestly think, Ocean, that I have been in the food revolution or the summit. I've been following the summits since day one. And I've been living a plant-based life for like 14 years or so, or 15, I don't know, maybe it's longer than that. And you guys started these summits, you said in 2012, right? So right now it's 2023, and that was 11 years ago. And I will tell you what, the Food Revolution Network has been such an integral part of my journey to be able to pull everything together cohesively in terms of living this lifestyle. And I am so thankful for it. So before anybody who's listening to this podcast moves on with their day or moves on with this podcast, please go follow the Food Revolution Network, get on their mailing list. And I'll tell you what, their marketing is amazing. So you will be notified about all of the summits and everything that comes up. And you need to get plugged into the Food Revolution Network because the information is invaluable and it can be completely life-changing. So I just needed to say that before we go into everything, because I'm just very thankful. So I want to say thank you.
Yay. Thank you. So glad to be with you. And, really, I started Food Revolution Network with my dad and colleague, John Robbins in 2012. but my family's been obsessed with healthy food for my entire life.
Yeah.
Rather famously, my dad walked away from Baskin Robbins, and my dad followed his own rocky road and wound up moving with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada where I was born in the middle of the woods. And, they were practicing yoga and meditation for several hours a day, growing most of their own food and naming their kid Ocean. And, so food's been a big central theme in my life, because my parents almost named me Kale, by the way. But the opportunity for these last 11 years to launch Food Revolution Network with my dad and now reach, almost 1 million people, with our message of health and ethics and sustainability is just such an incredible privilege. And thank you for being a part of this revolution and spreading the word about it. So grateful for all the people who are joining us and saying enough is enough to toxic food. Let's create health. Let's make food the foundation of healthy lives and a healthy world. Yeah.
And it's more than food. And we're going to get into that too. And you gave a little, just brief, you just gave a little of your biography, but to kind of backtrack, Ocean's dad was the son, right, of Baskin Robbins. And instead of being handed the golden platter cup of ice cream and moving into the family business, he decided that he was going to do things differently and change the world one day, one person at a time. And I wanted to ask you, this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. I mean, you just told us that instead of following the family, the business, he moved away to an island with your mom, and you grew up organically and watching your parents do yoga and living this natural, hygienic life, if you will. And it's really cool. So I wanted to just ask you, what was that like for you? What was it like? I mean, did you have anybody that you hung out with as a child? Like, tell me those things, because we have a son, he's 6 years old, and you know, this lifestyle, like we have a farm, we grow organic food and we sell it at the farmer's market, and we're a little bit of outliers,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely were outliers when I was a kid. One of the hazards of living in the middle of the woods 3 miles from the nearest neighbor is that it is tough to have a social life. And I had like one friend in my first 4 years who, was a few miles away, and we would literally meet each other on the dirt road, walking to each other's houses, sometimes, at the age of 3, 4 years old. When I was 4 going on 5, my family moved to the Victoria City in Canada so that I could have a school to go to and learn about social skills. And I definitely was a bit of a renegade in that environment, because I was very passionate. I was raised to think deeply about things and had a lot of conviction, and sometimes that showed up through what I think my peers experienced as fundamentalism. Mm-hmm. So I remember at the age of 7, going through all of my friends' lunch boxes at school and interrogating them. If any of them had meat, I would insult them for, murdering animals. And I actually wound up getting in a fist fight with my best friend Damien over the contents of his lunchbox. I asked him if he believed in the death penalty for murder, and then informed him that his roast beef sandwich then maybe should give him the fate he said people should get for murder. And, I ended up, by the end of that altercation, his sandwich was in the garbage and I was in the principal's office. Yeah. And I got to think long and hard about the fact that I was supposedly advocating for compassion. And here I was getting in a fight with my best friend over what he was eating. And so my dad had a good talk with me. And, over time, I learned to be a bit more diplomatic. I think that all of us have to struggle sometimes with how to be true to our convictions and our values in a world that often doesn't honor them or align with them. Mm-hmm. While also recognizing that maybe one of our values is getting along with other human beings, and maybe one of our values is showing respect for everybody's sovereignty to make the choices that make sense to them based on what they know and think and feel. Yeah. So, I've had to evolve in that process, and I have in many ways. But I've always had a deep sense of conviction. And I think my parents helped nurture that in me from a young age. And I will say, though, that my dad always used to tell me, I love you no matter what you eat. And
Aw.
I think that's a really important message for parents to convey, because, you want to help your kids to have the best possible values and make the best possible choices. But I think you also want to convey unconditional love. And hopefully we can convey that not only to children, but to everybody in our lives, because I think when people feel that, it's a bit disarming. And if people feel threatened or like an ideology is being shoved down their throats, they're naturally going to feel defensive, because most of us would choose our own sovereignty over being right, and so, at a certain point, you don't want to give up your dignity or your freedom or your authenticity or your choice capacity in life just because somebody else is telling you they know better than you what you should eat. Right. So when that's the conversation, any of us who are trying to spread the word or evangelize are going to lose. But if we can come from a place of respect for everybody and just wanting to help people get what they want out of life, that's, I think, the best way to help spread the word. If you want to let people know that the standard American diet leads to the standard American diseases and that something better is possible. And that's kind of what my life is about now.
Yeah. So that brings me right into the question of, what is the Food Revolution Network and why did you guys start it? What's the mission?
So Food Revolution Network's mission is healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. And, my dad, as we referenced, is a best-selling author. He wrote a book called Diet for a New America that came out in 1987 and really helped change the food landscape in the United States and many other countries. In the 5 years after what we call DNA came out, industrialized beef consumption in the US dropped by about 20%. And I'm not saying he was the whole reason for that, but there was a cultural zeitgeist of that moment. And my dad's book played a critical role in that, in helping us re-examine our relationship to what prior to that was seen as the all-American food. And the movement has continued. And in 2012, I joined with my dad to start Food Revolution Network because I really wanted to help it reach a whole new generation, a whole new era. My dad's books had sold millions of copies, but I could see the handwriting on the wall. The books weren't necessarily going to be growing as the internet was spreading. We had to find new tools. And so, we launched Food Revolution Network to see if we could reach as many people as possible online. And, we've grown to over 900,000 members now in every country on earth that has a free internet. And, our goal is to change the way the world eats, quite frankly. We live in a toxic food culture. And we call ourselves Food Revolution Network because we're not just about trying to help make people have food that's a little bit less bad. We want to actually fundamentally reinvent the way we grow food, the way we process food, the way we prepare food, and the way we consume food so that it can be in alignment with our well-being, so that it can help us have more joy and more pleasure and more vitality and more longevity and the energy we need to do what we were born to do. It breaks my heart how many people are suffering right now from chronic disease, from feeling like crap, and think that that's normal and don't realize it's a symptom of the modern diet and lifestyle. If you drive your car into a brick wall, the death certificate might say impalement by brick wall, but we all know really the cause of death was bad driving. Well, in a similar sense, if you eat the standard American diet, you may come down with heart disease, you may come down with Alzheimer's, you may come down with cancer, you may come down with type 2 diabetes, you may suffer with obesity, but these are all actually symptoms. The real cause of death, the real cause of suffering and misery is diet and lifestyle. And I think that's great news because we can do something about it. So Food Revolution Network's goal is to help put the power in your hands and everybody's hands to be a part of the revolution through our own choices so that we don't have to be a victim of a toxic food culture and we can reclaim our lives, reclaim our health and feel better.
Yeah. It's so powerful to just awaken to that. And I will also say that my friend who is a dietitian gave me Diet for a New America after she read it years and years ago. And that was actually, I will fully admit, Ocean, I'm not a reader. I like Audible. This was before I knew about Audible. I don't think even Audible was out. But I did read the very beginning of Diet for New America, and whoa, did that change my whole perspective. I was like, this dude is the son of Baskin Robbins, and he's like revolting against the whole system. Like, what? Like, it was refreshing to see and to just know that this was happening. And I was like, well, I want to be part of the revolution. And now, here I am just trying my best to get this message out and to give hope to people who do feel like you said, feeling sick, feeling tired, feeling, even depressed. Like, I have been there. I was there.
Yeah.
I have been addicted to animal and processed foods, highly addicted. I have been depressed, on medication for it, lots of different medications, terrible digestive symptoms, thinking that this was normal and that it was normal to have pain after every meal and to feel tired and sluggish after everything I ate. I really, truly thought that was normal. That's not. Right. Yeah. Like, and my whole life has changed. And I'm so thankful to have awoken, and Food Revolution really helps people do that, because they're armed with so much information and so much inspiration at the same time. So I want to talk a little bit about a certification that I just went through. Thanks to you and the team of the Plant Based Coach Certification. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Plant Based Coaching Certification.
Yes, the Plant Based
PBCC, we affectionately call it.
I just was part of the very first cohort. And when I saw that this certification was coming, even though I have multiple nutrition certifications, I was like, well, why not another one? But this one not only taught what I knew and reiterated it in such a beautiful way, with so many of the luminaries that I follow, the doctors, Brenda Davis, so Dr. Clapper, all of the people who I love and adore and follow for evidence-based nutrition information. They were part of it, and you were part of it. But not only was there a nutrition pillar, but there were also two other valuable pillars that I cannot wait for the next chapter of my business personally and my brand because of this certification. And the two other pillars were business and marketing, and coaching, basically how to be a better coach and how to be a coach in general. You can know everything that you need to know about nutrition, but if you're not a good business person, how are you going to market yourself, right? And if you aren't a good listener, which is the key takeaway that I took from the coaching part, if you're not the best listener, how are you going to serve your clients the best way? So it was a triad that really pulled everything together to help people become successful at getting this message out and helping to facilitate the healing process that people need so much these days. And it's very hard to get out of this pleasure trap, like Chef AJ talks about all the time, and Dr. Doug Lisle and Dr. Goldhammer. It's incredibly difficult to get out of it when it's the norm, and when things like that keep us sick are subsidized and all of that. So I'm very happy, and I feel like a disciple of the Food Revolution Network. And I am hopefully going to pass my exam and move forward with this, and I'm just so thankful. And I know that you guys will continue offering this, right? Hey, before we get too far into this episode, I want to be sure that you know about the Holistic Health Bundle. This amazing bundle is only available from July 20th to the 30th, 2023. And I want to tell you a little bit more about what it entails. It's basically a collection of over 100 high quality ebooks, courses, and guides for only $50. If bought separately, everything in the bundle would cost over $8,000 in total, making it a 99% discount. And there truly is no catch other than the fact that the bundle ends on July 30th, and all of the resources will go away at that time, and they will go back to their regular pricing, and you'll have to get them from each person thereafter. So if you want to get your hands on the best resource when it comes to holistic living, this is it. Let me tell you a little bit more about what's in it, but this really is only scratching the surface. There is literally everything in the bundle for reaching true health, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And some of the topics that are covered are holistic methods for dealing with various diseases, illnesses, burnout, depression, trauma, and a whole range of other illnesses and issues, doctor-approved detox formulations with proper drainage, cleansing, and recipes, growing medicinal herbs, making a materia medica using healing plants and nature's superfoods safely and sustainably, inner child healing, including heart-opening breathwork, sound healing, and guided meditations, herbalism and natural remedies to heal common ailments naturally and creating a sovereign herbal medicine cabinet, holistic health practices like homeopathy, Ayurvedic practices and recipes in yoga, biohacking, hormone balancing, sleep optimization, and light optimization to reach peak health, creating a low-tox home, DIY recipes for chemical-free home, mindset coaching and personal development to reach the next level of focus and intention and consciousness, natural beauty and body care products using plants and natural ingredients, healing recipes, detox juices, salads, and superfood smoothies to boost your immune system, reduce inflammation, and support your body's natural ability to heal, holistic pregnancies, postpartum practices, cyclical nutrition and exercise, and holistic health guides for your little ones, resources for gut health, liver cleansing, metabolism, GERD, SIBO, and more. There's so many nutritional education resources and lifestyle tips in this bundle. And if you don't know yet, my contribution is called Nurturing Nature. Basically, it's about holistic and plant-based kids. So if this is something that interests you, you can get my mini video course in the Holistic Health Bundle, but it's only available through July 30th. So what you're going to learn is how to stimulate the body's natural ability to heal. You're going to identify and learn about how to grow healing plants to make your own medicine garden. You're going to learn about a chemical-free home and how to protect yourself from harmful chemicals and how to use even nature as medicine, like the sun and the ground. You're going to learn so many other things too. And there really truly is not a catch at all. This is 100% real. It's that good of a deal. It's just so good. We came together and decided we wanted to give a 99% discount, and every single thing in this is less than 50 cents each. It's incredible. And if you were to buy all of this in one swoop, it would be, again, over $8,000, and it's only $50. So make sure that you swipe down or click down in the show notes to get the Holistic Health Bundle. Again, it's only available from July 20th through the 30th of 2023. And then after that, you can get everybody's contributions individually at a much higher price point. But I promise you will be so thrilled to have this resource at your fingertips. Again, it's over 100 resources, including ebooks, recipe guides, PDF downloads, video courses, and more. And once you download and buy the bundle, you'll get a confirmation email to access it. And then you'll be able to download everything onto a separate hard drive, or you can put it into Google Drive, or just pick and choose which ebooks and resources you want to download to have at your fingertips. So do not wait. The multitude of incredible minds and creators of these courses, programs, and ebooks are offering their best life lessons at an enormous discount for just a limited time. And you absolutely cannot find this level of value combined in any other way other than the Holistic Health Bundle. And I'm very happy to say there are tons of fully plant-based resources in this bundle. So if that's what you're looking for, you can get it here as well. So click down in the notes to get your $50 Holistic Health Bundle worth over $8,000, and you're going to be thrilled. I cannot wait to hear your favorite resources in this bundle and how much it empowers you to take back your health. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way I look at it, a lot of FRN's programs are focused on helping individuals to make thoughtful and choices that align with their values and to make informed choices, and then to apply those with recipes and practical tips for implementation. But we developed this whole other program, the coaching certification, because we realized that a lot of people could really benefit from hands-on mentorship. And a lot of folks want to be leaders in this revolution, not just follow us, but lead their own charge, lead their own communities, and build businesses and livelihoods as food revolutionaries, if you will, as a part of this upswelling of people who are saying enough is enough to toxic food. And there's an incredible market opportunity, I think, here. The way I look at it, Food 1.0 is about survival. If you can get enough calories to fill your belly, that's success. Food 2.0 is about commerce, and it's got all this taste and texture and cuisine, but it's morally bankrupt, and it's killing us and killing our planet. And then Food 3.0 is about health, and health for our bodies and health for our world. And that becomes the central organizing principle in Food 3.0. And there are healthy profits in Food 3.0. They just come from healthy food. So in my view, building a new food economy and a mentorship community that can help drive that forward is critical, life-changing work. So we launched this certification to help build a whole new cadre of folks who want to be leaders in the movement. And so, yeah, I guess in the show notes, folks, maybe you can put up a link so folks can go learn more about the Food Revolution Network's plant-based coaching certification. Depending on when you're watching this, we may be open for enrollment right now, or if not, you can sign up to learn more about it later whenever we next do open for enrollment. But we're planning to make this a major feature of our work in the years to come.
I mean, there was so much that went into it, and I still have yet to give my review and to give my feedback and let you guys know that my testimonial, my positive testimonial. I mean, if you are listening to this and you are already living this lifestyle, you're super interested in this lifestyle, you want to be a coach, you're looking at different nutrition programs, you don't know which one to take. I've gotten multiple messages from friends that want to take nutrition certifications. They want to know what I've taken. They want to know what would be best for them. They just want to help people. And I will tell you, out of all of the certifications that I've taken and, like the programs and everything that I've done, the Food Revolution really put it together so well. And it's not just one person teaching it. It's a whole collective. And it's incredible. All the people that you're going to be exposed to help you grow, to help you market, to help you share this message, and to help you know all of the scientific evidence to support a healthy human body and help to save the earth at the same time and to live kindly. It's just so comprehensive, and I have so much information that I still need to digest and take in, but it is packed, and you guys will be very thankful if you get on that list to either learn more about it if it's not open right now, or to just go for it and to sign up, because it's so good. So I want to talk now about I actually fielded a few questions from some followers, but let's get into one of them. And it is how to be an influence to others who are sitting on the fence with climate change, animal agriculture, and health.
So I'm guessing with that question that we're talking about moving towards a plant-based lifestyle, because clearly animal agriculture is impacting climate change and it's impacting health, and not in a good way for the most part. So those are two different audiences, though. I'll say that some people are very motivated by concern for the planet, and a lot of people are going plant-based for that reason, especially younger people. A lot of young folks think they're going to live forever, or just, most of us don't really realize we're going to die until some wake-up call happens at some point in our lives. But a lot of young folks are very concerned about the fate of our planet and what kind of world they're going to inherit. And when they hear about studies saying that, Florida is going to be underwater in a generation or two, and New York City, and, that we are on this irreversible path towards, potentially billions of people being unable to grow food on planet Earth, that hits them hard, because they're going to live long enough to see those consequences. And so a lot of folks are taking action from that and realizing that our food choices have a huge impact. The United Nations is telling us that it's pretty much impossible to hit any of our climate targets without radically changing what we eat. I mean, it's that simple. Worldwide, the animal agriculture is responsible for using up 81% of the world's agricultural land to produce 17% of the world's calories. So if just theoretically the world went vegan tomorrow, we'd free up an area of land equivalent to all of the US, the European Union, Australia, and China combined. And so by eating lower on the food chain, we can save resources that can go to be rainforest again, right, and that can sequester carbon, that can be used for wind farms, that can be used for all sorts of things, because that land becomes available. And so our food choices have a huge impact in terms of saving land, water, topsoil, and helping sequester carbon out of the atmosphere. So for folks who are interested in the planet, it's actually not a big jump to say, okay, eating lower on the food chain is the most powerful thing we can do. It's more powerful than not driving. It's more powerful than not flying on airplanes. It's more powerful than having solar panels on your house. And maybe we want to do all those things too. But food is the biggest single driver any of us can move. And of course, we also, because food is social, we influence other people. So if someone's on the fence but is caring about the environment, I'd like to talk about that. And if you go to foodrevolution.org, you can find lots of articles on our website that kind of lay out these facts and look at that information. If someone is thinking about their health and is concerned about their health, is afraid of getting chronic disease, or just wants to feel better or look better, then the best example is yourself. Like if you are radiant and vibrant and healthy, then your friends will start asking you, what's your secret? Especially as you get older and you start to look different than a lot of your peers. And I know a lot of folks who have converted many people to a plant-based diet, like at high school and college reunions,
I'm going
20 and 30 years later.
I'm going to my 20 year in like 2 weeks. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So cool. Yeah. So, those things can be really cool, but it's, at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. Giving people information or letting people know your story. Like, I feel great and I'm so excited, and, don't come off like a multi-level marketing salesperson, though, like, hey, can I tell you about this? There's that old joke, like,
don't do the lunchbox thing.
Right. There's that old joke, like, how do you know if someone's a vegan? Oh, they'll tell you.
Oh, they will. I know. I've totally done it. I've done it. I will admit.
Yeah. So, learning how to be respectful and spacious, and at the same time, like with loved ones, especially when we get closer, having conversations like, wow, I love you, and I noticed that you've been suffering with this condition or whatever. And, I was just doing some interesting research on that topic recently, wrote an article about that. And I heard about some pretty amazing studies on food and that condition. Do your research, find the articles, right? Say, would you like me to share what I found? Right. And they might be like, no, I'm good. And you're like, okay, fine. But if you do it in that light, and it's kind of like, I was doing research and I found some stuff I thought might be interesting for you. Would you like me to share it? A lot of folks will say, sure, send me the link, Yeah. And then you can send an article or maybe a video or maybe a book, if that's the best resource. It's nice to relate it to someone's specific issues or concerns, but don't project onto them. If someone looks, say, large, don't tell them, hey, I learned about this great cure for obesity, because that's going to make them feel very ashamed and guilty. And, oh, is that so obvious? And like if somebody has acne, don't be like, hey, I found a cure for acne, like that's going to really hurt their feelings. So be respectful and conscious, but also share. If they ask, if they confide, how are you doing? How's your health? How is your body holding up how are the years treating you? You can ask questions and then be there for them. Listen to what their concerns are, and then see if you can help them solve their problems, in a loving, respectful way, if they want that. But it's always nice to ask permission, like, hey, I found this study. Would you like me to share it with you? Or I've been doing some research on that, or I'm a health coach. And as it happens, I get to help people resolve a lot of problems, including some of the things you just talked about. But I also want to be super respectful. We're friends first, Right, so right. I don't want to put anything down, shove any ideology down your throat. But I did have the thought, gosh, maybe I could be useful. Would you like to talk about that? Do you want to hear more? So those are things that you could share that are, just being respectful and gracious. And at the same time, don't shut down from the opportunity if you have a connection with somebody, because there is such a thing as regret. If somebody you love, say, dies of heart disease, and you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I say anything? Like, because the studies are out there, 90% of heart disease can be prevented or reversed with diet and lifestyle. And if you look at somebody and you talk to them and it's suddenly you can't talk to them because it's too late, you may live with that. And it's not that it's your fault, but we are responsible for doing what we can with what we know. So, at least giving an opportunity, may be something that would mean a lot to somebody. But also giving them sovereignty and respect every step of the way. And quite frankly, if someone's path is to get heart disease or some other disease because of choices they're making, we can't rob them from that. I mean, there's a law in this universe of cause and effect, right? And we can't save anyone from that. And quite frankly, it's how all of our ancestors learned a whole lot of things, many of them the hard way, about how to live in this world. So we can't rob somebody of the opportunity to learn in their own way and at their own timing, and to respect that. Like, there's reasons why people go through the journey they go through and at the pace that they go through it. And not everyone is going to make it to the promised land of vitality and health. So holding love and respect and compassion, and at the same time, when you really love somebody, letting them know that part of how you love them is by sharing resources if they want that.
Thank you for that. Okay, so the next question that I had from a friend is, what are your thoughts about lab-grown meat?
It was just legalized as of this recording recently. The USDA just approved lab-grown chicken in certain settings. Here's the thing. There's sort of three reasons why people go plant-based: their health, the environment, and animals. And from an animal perspective, there's no doubt lab-grown meat, no factory farms are involved in its production. And so People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals has come out as a big supporter of lab-grown meat, because their passion is getting animals out of factory farms and seeing humans treat animals with respect. And lab-grown meat contributes to that cause, right? From an environmental standpoint, it has the potential to be a big win, because it has the potential to substantially reduce environmental footprint of food, depending on how it's produced and what sort of growth medium is used. You don't get something from nothing. You don't get food out of air. So they're going to have to provide some caloric source that the cultures of the meats will grow on. So what are those inputs, and what goes into their production, and what is their environmental footprint, right? And then are there waste byproducts in the process, or is it fairly clean? So I think there is a possibility with enough scientific innovation that it could be a substantial improvement from an environmental perspective. But I think the jury's still out on that until the technology advances further. From a health perspective, it's probably not any better than meat, because it is meat, right? Though they may develop ways of producing it that are, for example, leaner, or have more of certain beneficial fats. So, personally, I'm not drawn to it, because I would want to see some research showing it was safe. And also, I don't think meat's healthy, even regardless of environmental and animal considerations. However, am I glad that it's happening? Potentially. I think it has the potential to be a benefit to the world. Quite frankly, with the state of our environment right now and the way that animals are being treated in factory farms, any step we can do, any step we can take as a society to reduce those impacts, I think is beneficial on the planet. And if humans are going to continue to eat meat anyway, why not produce it in ways that are less destructive? Yeah.
It's a weird time to be alive, Ocean. That's what I will say. It is a weird time.
Yeah.
It is. I agree with the environmental aspect too. It's just quite an interesting time to be alive. I never thought that we would be here where we are right now with that. Okay. So before we get into more fun questions, what do you think is the most pressing issue right now? Earth, health, kindness. What keeps you up at night?
Honestly, for me, myself personally, like I feel a great deal of sadness about the world my children are going to inherit, and the perils of that world. And I'll be honest with you, like I think that humanity has a choice in the face of collective problems, whether we respond to them with teamwork, or whether we allow them to divide and conquer. And essentially, if we get fractured and we fight over an ever smaller slice of the pie, then we're going to make the pie smaller still. And that's what war is all about. And I think we're unfortunately on a course right now where the likelihood is, just based on our history as a species, that we're going to see more wars over water, over food, over basic survival. And of course, any one of those could blow up into something much bigger, because there's so many guns and bombs and so much violence in the world. And as long as nations continue to spend huge portion of their wealth and their financial resources on military, we are going to, as a species, have less and less resources available to deal with the really big problems we face when it comes to climate change. Yeah. Because climate change, if you get a fever, your temperature only goes up by a few degrees, you feel like crap. Go up about 7 degrees, you could die. Maybe 8 or 9 degrees, right? Like somewhere in there, there's a threshold. Well, it doesn't take that big a shift to completely throw our ecosystems out of whack. And suddenly we have droughts and deserts in places that billions of people live. And then in other places we have floods and monsoons. The environment is very finely honed, and all of the ecosystems have been built around that. So for me, the concern is like, what's going to happen to future generations, and how will humanity respond to the almost certain crises we're going to face? And I feel scared about that. And I think as a dad, I want to feel like proud of the world I'm giving my kids. And when my kids look at me and ask me questions, like, is there going to be water to drink, in the Middle East? And I'm like, probably not. And they're like, what'll happen to all those people? And I'm like, well, they'll probably be refugees, like the people in Las Vegas and the people in Phoenix, Arizona, and then like the people in Florida and New York when those go underwater. So that's what we're headed towards. And like the other thing that keeps me up at night is realizing we can still have time to do so much about it. And, food is a place where we can have such an influence. So I'm super passionate about spreading the word here, because I don't want us to be helpless victims. I want us to be active participants. And, yes, there are some sort of problems that are kind of baked in right now that are unstoppable, but there's a whole lot of difference between, say, a 2-degree rise and a 5-degree rise in global temperatures. That literally could mean the difference between like hundreds of millions of people being displaced and like half of the world's population dying, like that's the difference. And that's immense. And so from my perspective, we still have an opportunity to blunt and even reverse this and create a beautiful world for humanity in the process, if we can learn to participate meaningfully in being a part of a healthy ecosystem. And if we can, as a species, find some way of cooperating to solve what is inherently a collective problem. I used to imagine when I was a kid that maybe if aliens attacked from outer space, the whole world would unite to fight off the attacker. Well, now we've got a collective problem that's threatening our whole world. So far, humanity is not showing up. We're acting like, hey, aliens, you go bomb them and we'll be okay. We're acting like we're not on the same team. And ultimately, that's a path towards destruction. Martin Luther King said in the 60s, he said, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish together as fools. And so I think we're kind of on that path, and that's our choice point right now, as a species. And I'm scared we won't make the right choices, but I'm also hopeful that we will. And the good news is every one of us gets to make right choices and be a part of the solution. And that feels really good.
Yeah. We can take our power back. We really can. And those things keep me up at night, Ocean, too. So solidarity there. Let's lighten it up. Okay. Let's lighten it up. And I want to know, what does it look like what do you eat on a daily basis?
I eat food, real food.
Yeah,
Michael Pollan said, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. I think that's good words to live by. My favorite breakfast is I make this homemade savory oatmeal. It sounds really weird to people, but I cook oatmeal in unsweetened Eden soy milk, which by the way has 12 grams of protein per cup, and it's pure soybeans and water. Cook oatmeal in that, and then I add in, and this sounds weird to some people, but chopped up onions, and I cook it, and I after cooking it, I add in ground flax chia meal and nutritional yeast, some nuts or seeds, maybe some pumpkin seeds chopped up. I use tamari soy sauce and olive oil and some spices, lots and lots of spices, and it's just, it's delicious. I really like it. And I'm getting like a load of plant protein. I'm getting lots of omega-3 fatty acids. I'm getting tons of fiber, including soluble and insoluble fiber, all for breakfast. And so it's fun. I like starting the day off in a really healthy way. I eat lots of legumes, lots of whole grains. My personal favorites right now are quinoa. If you rinse it first before you cook it, you get rid of some of the bitterness, by the way. It tastes sweeter. I love fonio, which is an African grain that most people don't know about, but recently discovered it. And it's very pleasant. It's very light. It's a little bit couscous-like, but it's totally gluten-free. And it cooks in like 4 minutes. I like millet and, rice as well. And then I love greens. I eat a lot of greens. We grow kale in the garden and have a farmer's market nearby. And I love kale. Love cabbage is actually one of my favorites. I love steamed cabbage with some carrots and onions for sweetness. And then maybe some like homemade salad dressing on top. That's one of my favorites. And I love root vegetables. Sweet potatoes are amazing, super healthy, by the way. Potatoes I like too. Squashes are great, kind of hearty. Love corn, blended corn on the cob. Salads are fun. But there's so many good things. Soups and stews are fun. I love casseroles. Lots of ways to mix up and use different kinds of leftovers. We always have beans in the fridge in our home. We soak them for 24 to 48 hours, pouring off the water every 12. So you get off all the oligosaccharides, which are that bubbly stuff that floats to the top when the water turns cloudy. That's like oligosaccharides coming off, which are part of what gives people gas. So you soak them or get the sprouting process going. Recently, I actually got into partially sprouted soybeans that you then cook. And soybeans are super loaded with phytoestrogens and plant protein and all kinds of goodness. They're linked to lower risk of cancer, heart disease, greater longevity. When you soak them for a couple of days and then let them sprout for another couple of days, rinsing every 12, and then pressure cook them, they're really soft. And I made baked beans with soybeans, which was just amazing. They're kind of light and slightly sweet and just a really pleasant bean to eat. And they're so healthy. And most people don't even know that. They don't even realize you can eat soybeans. They think about tofu and tempeh and edamame and miso and those and soy sauce. And those are all lovely, but you can use soybeans more directly too, although it helps to sprout them a bit first and cook them well. Yeah,
for sure. Thank you for all of those ideas. You said blended corn. Have you ever tried the corn butter? I think it's one of those recipes from like Forks Over Knives. I haven't yet tried it, but it's like like corn butter.
I've never tried it, but that sounds fun.
Sounds yummy. And then
I didn't mention avocados. I do love avocados. I live in California.
I was going to ask you what your favorite fruit is. So I guess we'll roll with avocado.
Oh, well, I don't know. I can call it my favorite fruit. I do love avocados. Personally, it's a short season, but I love cherries so much.
They're in season right now. We have 3 different kinds in the refrigerator. You got to take advantage.
Blueberries, though. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on blueberries.
Well, those are coming soon for us. So
I love blueberries. And here's the thing: some people call them brain berries because people who eat blueberries regularly have 2 more healthy years of brain life. Like they push off Alzheimer's an average of 2 years. In another study, people who eat greens in abundance add 11 more healthy years of brain life. So put those 2 together, do you get 13 more? Probably. I think it's amazing to think of what's possible when we just feed our body the right fuel.
Yes, absolutely. That when I was chasing Dr. Greger one time after he did a presentation, I was chasing him. I had just had Cohen, our son, and I was like holding him in one arm and I was chasing Dr. Greger after he talked and he was on his way to a book signing. And I was like, Dr. Greger, and I was trying to record him. I was like, if you have one thing to tell the people that they should eat, what should they do? He was like, beans, greens, and berries. And I was like, okay. So yeah, greens and berries, we know for sure are so good. And of course, beans are eaten by all of the people in the blue zones. And then you mentioned sprouting soybeans. I love sprouting in general. I'm a sprout fanatic. I'm going to implore you, Ocean, to sprout onion seeds. If you've never, we all know about broccoli sprouts. We know about all of those sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, and just fun, things to put on sandwiches and all that stuff and just to eat. But please try onion sprouts. They are so good and you will be so thankful. You said that you like onions in your oatmeal. So if you want like next level flavor, your life will change if you try onion sprouts. I told Dr. Will Bolsewitz, the gastroenterologist about them on my podcast. And he actually ended up putting them into his book because they changed his life. They're so good. So you need to try onion sprouts. And then I want to geek out with you really quick on the soybeans. I love to also do soybeans. I bought black soybeans and they're so delicious. But I also saw a woman, we sell microgreens at the farmer's market. And I saw a woman that actually grows soy microgreens. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what the phytoestrogen content is in those. I'm interested.
I don't know. I know.
There's been no studies, but and I also love savory oats. My favorite. So good. I love doing shiitake mushrooms with Swiss chard and cherries, tart cherries. It's a very interesting combination. It's so good.
Wow.
It's just delicious. Okay. I had to geek out about food real quick there.
Nice. Tart cherries have health benefits that are not even found in regular cherries, by the way.
Yes, the tart.
They're a little harder to obtain fresh, depending on where you live.
I get them frozen. Yeah,
nice.
I get them. Or we will travel. We will travel up to Michigan from Indiana and get the Montmorency tart cherries and put them in our chest freezer.
Nice. And so, just a good tip for everybody watching or listening right now: fresh foods are great if they're local. But from an environmental standpoint and from a health standpoint, frozen is actually often less resource consumptive because there's no waste involved. Things can be picked at the peak of ripeness and the nutrients are kind of locked in. Yes. So you get things that are actually pretty darn fresh and nutritious from frozen. And while, of course, there's resources involved in keeping them frozen, there's also a lot of resources involved in keeping perishable refrigerated foods cold. And then a lot of waste. Typically half of the produce that we might buy in a market doesn't make it to us. Yeah. Because it dies somewhere along the way. Whereas with frozen, you're only going to thaw it when you're actually going to use it. So there tends to be like you're cutting out that 50% waste in the food stream. So, and it's often cheaper. So a lot of people ask me, is it okay to use frozen? I'm like, yeah, it actually might be better in a lot of cases. Obviously, if you've got it in your own backyard fresh, that's the best, right? Or in a farmer's market or a CSA. But frozen can be good stuff too.
Heck yeah. We definitely rely on frozen food. And no shame there. I love the taste of it. Okay, 2 last questions. Well, before I move on from the food, are you an herbal tea guy? Do you like herbal teas? Do you drink herbal teas on a normal basis?
I do like herbal teas. I like their health benefits and I drink them with some regularity. I'm not a everyday herbal tea drinker, but I am a fairly frequent herbal tea drinker. Honestly, I like green teas a little bit more because I'm so impressed with the health benefit of matcha and green teas. So I tend to have that, and even black and oolong and others. And I personally enjoy the caffeine too, but I make sure to have it earlier in the day. The slot for herbal tea would generally be for me when I'm socially hanging out with people. I often like to pour up a cup of tea, and especially if it's in the afternoon or evening, I'm not going to want to be drinking any caffeine. So that's when it tends to fit into my life.
Love that. Have you heard of sencha tea?
Yeah, I think so. That's made from the tea plant, right?
Yes. So sencha is actually higher in catechins than matcha. It's just going a little bit differently, and they actually expose it to the sun. A little bit earlier than matcha. So yeah, I interviewed a woman whose husband used sencha alongside some other modalities for his cancer. And I learned about how it's even better, a little bit better than matcha.
Right.
So I was blown away by that. Now, what is the future of the food revolution? What do you guys see and envision for the next 10, 20, 50 years?
Well, for the revolution as a whole, as opposed to the organization Food Revolution Network.
Both. Either.
You know, I want to see an end to factory farms.
Yeah.
I want to see, you know, plant-based protein sources taking the market by storm. I think there's a lot of resources being developed right now for different ways of farming that are more sustainable and less resource intensive. And so I think that we're going to see some technological breakthroughs that are going to be critical to feeding humanity, because we're facing some technologically driven crises. So we're going to need some technological breakthroughs to find our way through that. Unfortunately, a lot of us back to the lander people just want to see us be more natural. But I think humanity is at a point where in order to feed 8 billion humans and counting, and in order to deal with the onslaught of climate change, we're going to need technological breakthroughs too. So I think that's going to happen. I think humans are going to respond. I just hope we respond fast enough, you know, because there's a long time lag between the impact of our choices being felt. And that's true with food too, by the way. Like it's not like you get a heart attack one day when you eat, you know, French fries and a burger. But if you eat enough French fries and burgers, eventually you're going to have an impact you didn't want. And so I think that my hope is that humans can sort of learn before it's too late what's at stake, so we can make wiser choices that are in our own best interests. And I do think that's happening, that more and more of us are spreading the word and inspiring people to be the change. So my hope is that soon enough, humans can stop arguing about things like whether or not climate change is real, or whether or not whole foods plant-based diet is helpful, and can start just focusing together on finding creative solutions using marketplace, using social peer pressure, using education, maybe using government policy intervention, all of which can conspire to help us act in our own best interests. So, you know, that's where I see us going. And I think the food world is changing fast and often in good ways. I think more and more, even major brands are making shorter ingredient lists, trying to get rid of toxic chemicals instead of adding more, and starting to move away from added sugars. Americans are starting to eat less sugar than we did a few years ago, less sugary junk food cereals, you know, less candy. We're moving in that direction, and we could go a lot further and a lot faster. We're starting to see some healthier sodas come on the market that still give people that fizz and mouthfeel, but that don't have all the junk and even have added fiber and other good things in them. So I think there's movements that are taking root, and I just hope we can accelerate them and mainstreamize them really, really fast. And then for Food Revolution Network, of course, we want to help inspire these movements and empower people. So, you know, our goals are, in the next few years, we want to offer more courses and more films and more summits and more resources and more coaching certifications, for sure. We also want to get involved in advocacy in systems change, so that we can promote campaigns like getting produce prescriptions legal, so that doctors can prescribe fruits and vegetables to their patients, and insurance companies will pick up the tab for people who have diet-related conditions that fruits and vegetables could help. I think that you know, we want to see healthy food in our hospitals. We want to see healthy food in our schools. Even giving people options in hospitals, by the way. Let's suppose someone's recovering from a heart attack. Let's suppose they're asked, would you like to have the heart healthy menu? You know, like, we don't have to force them, but let's give them the option and say, hey, you know what? Your chances of a recurrence go down by about 80% if you can make a big change in your diet and lifestyle right now. Would you like today to be the first step while you're in the hospital to have a heart healthy menu? 2 sentences. You could change somebody's life with that question, right? So that's just an example. So, you know, we want to see changes in all these areas, and some of that, insurance companies have power, hospital chains have power, government forces have power, consumers have power, doctors have power. We want to help liberate that power so that people can act in their own best interests. And, you know, we want to see routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. And, we want doctors to learn about nutrition in medical school, and we've got strategies for all of this. So, hopefully we'll have the resources and help to build movements that can move some of this stuff forward so we can create systemic change. Because, our mission is healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all, not just for the elite few. And part of how we get to the for all part of that is by focusing on historically marginalized populations. In particular. And I do think that government and institutions have a role to play in that kind of outreach. But I think consumer advocacy groups and activists like all of us can play a part in tipping the scales and helping level the playing field so that it gets easier for folks to do the right thing and make healthy choices for their families.
Thank you for that. And I will just say, like, advocacy can go so far, and don't ever think that your voice is too small. And I had the honor to go to Capitol Hill to lobby for better regulation on personal care products. And like, it started, it just starts with one. And there have been, over the last decade of the work that the beauty brand that I love, has done, there's been 10 laws passed to help protect consumers. So it's not impossible, and it's not out of reach, and don't ever think that your voice is too small. So please just continue advocating and trying to step up, because it can work, and we can do this as a collective. So Ocean, I have one last question. This is one that I ask all of my guests. And I want to know from you, what does holistic living mean to you?
Well, holistic to me means whole. And there's two aspects to that, I will say. One is our whole selves, our whole beings, looking out for our happiness, for our vitality, for our longevity, for our peace, for our joy. And that means body, mind, heart, and spirit are aligned, and we're making life choices that fuel wellness at every level. And the other piece is sort of in right relation with our ecosystem, because we are not just isolated consumers. We're part of a greater whole, and food is super personal. It's also very political. It affects animals, it affects the environment, it affects social justice, it affects whether or not other people even have the ability in the future to eat at all. So when we eat lower on the food chain, we're able to be more harmonious participants in the web of life. When we eat more organically grown food, more local food, more sustainable and fair trade food, we participate in a world where there's less pesticides, where there's less exploitation of farmers and laborers. We participate in a world where animals aren't tortured in factory farms and children aren't forced into slavery in things like the chocolate industry. So when you move towards more fair trade and make choices that align with whatever your values are, it's amazing how good it can feel to be part of the solution. So holistic living to me means living in right relation with the whole of ourselves and the whole of our world. And it also often means moving away from industrialized factories as the source of our nourishment, and moving more towards, sourcing in the earth and sourcing in human beings for love and connection rather than things we buy. A lot of us are, filling gaps of feeling powerless through things we buy all around us, that maybe create temporary pleasure, but long-term create an addictive cycle towards stuff, as if that's how we get joy and happiness and peace and fulfillment, is from buying stuff. And that eventually leads to credit card debt, and it leads to a deep soul aching emptiness. So I'm interested in how we can be holistic by tending to the real sources of joy. The things that make us the most happy, like love, are not something you can buy or sell. They come from who we are and how we live and the relationships we foster. And health isn't something that comes from the doctor's office or the drugstore. It comes from the choices we make and the way we live. Medicines may be able to help us deal with symptoms, but the only way you're really going to get healthy is with cause, and that starts with food and lifestyle. So holistic to me is about rooting in the real sources of joy and health.
Oh my gosh, so good. You always have the right words. Every year in the summit, you're just like, these words just flow right out of you. It's like your entire being is just oozing out. I'm so thankful for it, Ocean.
Thank you, Stacey.
You are so incredible. And I'm so grateful that I got to spend this time with you. I truly this is just a pivotal moment. So thank you so much. Or do you have any last words that you want to share with anybody that's listening? I mean, that was
thank you all for listening, for your time, for your attention, for your curiosity. I think that, curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. And when we're learning something, we are capable of doing better and growing and evolving. And I think evolution is absolutely critical to our prospects for survival as a species. So thank you for being a part of the evolutionary impulse of humanity and of your own life and highest well-being. Because together, the past doesn't equal the future. Together, we can create a bright and beautiful future that's worthy of our spirits and our dignity and our love. And it starts with learning and discovery and curiosity and implementation. So Stacey, thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Ocean.